Some revolutions begin with violence. Others begin with a single human being quietly refusing to accept the role society assigned to them. In 20th century France, one philosopher challenged ideas so deeply rooted that they reshaped the modern world itself. This is void of context. Take a slow breath. There are people who change laws. There are people who change culture. And then there are rare individuals who change the way humanity sees itself. For centuries, women were told their lives already had meaning. Be obedient. Be quiet. Be useful. Be beautiful. And above all, never ask for more. But one woman refused to accept that destiny was written before birth. Her name was Simone de Beauvoir. She did not lead armies. She did not rule nations. Yet her ideas quietly entered homes, universities, marriages, and minds across the world. And once people heard her words, society could never fully return to what it was before. Because Simone de Beauvoir asked a terrifying question. What if the roles we call natural were only inventions? What if freedom was far more frightening than obedience? And what if becoming yourself was the hardest task a human being could ever face? If you enjoy timeless stories about philosophers, rebels, and the minds that changed history, subscribe now to journey deeper into the hidden corners of human thought. Simone de Beauvoir was born in Paris in 1908. France still carried the old shadows of tradition. Religion shaped morality. Men shaped politics. And women were expected to shape silence. Her family had noble roots, but financial struggles slowly consumed their comfortable life. As a child, Simone watched appearances carefully maintained, while reality quietly collapsed underneath. That contradiction stayed with her forever. She was intelligent very early, dangerously intelligent. Books became her private world. Philosophy became her escape. While society prepared girls for marriage, Simone wanted something else entirely. She wanted truth. But truth often creates loneliness. As a young woman, she studied philosophy at the Sorbonne. At a time when academic life belonged mostly to men, Simone entered rooms where women were rarely taken seriously. And yet she stood out immediately. Sharp mind, cold discipline, fearless arguments. It was there she met another young philosopher named Jean-Paul Sartre. Their relationship would become one of the most famous intellectual partnerships in modern history. But it was never simple. They rejected traditional marriage, rejected normal expectations, rejected the idea that love should become ownership. To many people, their relationship looked chaotic, even immoral. But for Simone, freedom mattered more than comfort. That idea became the center of her philosophy. Human beings are not born with fixed meaning. We create ourselves through choices. And that sounds beautiful until you realize what it truly means. Because if life has no predetermined script, then every decision becomes your responsibility. Freedom suddenly feels heavy. This existential philosophy deeply shaped Simone's thinking. But unlike many philosophers around her, she saw something men often ignored. Women were not equally free. Society claimed women were naturally emotional, passive, dependent, maternal. But Simone believed these identities were carefully constructed over centuries. In 1949, she published the book that changed modern feminism forever, The Second Sex. And inside its pages, she wrote one sentence that echoed across generations. One is not born, but rather becomes a woman. The statement shocked the world. Simone argued that society trains women into restrictive roles from childhood. Girls are rewarded for obedience, for softness, for pleasing others. Meanwhile, boys are encouraged to explore, conquer, decide, and dominate. Over time, these expectations begin to feel natural. But Simone believed they were historical inventions disguised as destiny. Her ideas terrified conservative society. Religious leaders condemned her. Critics attacked her morality. Many accused her of destroying family values. But young women read her work in secret, and for the first time, many felt understood. Because Simone described something painfully familiar, the feeling of disappearing inside expectations, the quiet pressure to become what others needed instead of discovering who you truly were. And perhaps that is why her work still feels powerful today. Even now, millions of people live lives designed by invisible systems, family pressure, social media, culture, fear, algorithms, tradition. People perform identities until they no longer remember who they were before the performance began. Simone de Beauvoir saw this long before the digital age. She believed oppression survives not only through laws, but through habits, through stories repeated so many times that nobody questions them anymore. And questioning them comes with a cost: loneliness. Simone often lived emotionally isolated from the world around her. She was admired publicly, but criticized constantly. People misunderstood her, reduced her ideas, turned her into symbols instead of a human being. Yet behind the intellectual image was someone deeply vulnerable. She feared aging, feared emotional abandonment, feared meaninglessness. The same woman who wrote about freedom also struggled with the emotional burden freedom creates. Because liberation does not guarantee happiness. Sometimes it only removes illusions, and illusions can feel comforting. Simone understood that many people prefer certainty over truth, even painful certainty. To question society means questioning your family, your religion, your identity, sometimes even your own memories. That process can feel terrifying. But Simone believed authentic life demanded courage. Not heroic courage, not dramatic courage, quiet courage. The courage to examine your life honestly. During the 20th century, the world transformed rapidly. Wars destroyed millions. Technology accelerated daily existence. Old traditions weakened. And inside this unstable modern world, Simone's ideas spread further and further. University students carried her books through protests. Women fighting for equal rights quoted her words. Philosophers debated her arguments across Europe and America. She became one of the central intellectual voices of modern feminism. But Simone never wanted simple slogans. She disliked shallow thinking. She believed freedom came with responsibility toward others. A society obsessed only with individual desire would eventually become empty. This tension mattered deeply to her. How do humans remain free while still caring for one another? That question still haunts modern life. Today, people have more personal freedom than many earlier generations could imagine. And yet, loneliness continues growing. People speak constantly online while feeling emotionally invisible. They curate identities, perform happiness, search endlessly for validation. Simone would probably recognize this condition immediately. Because she believed modern society often transforms human beings into objects, people stop seeing each other fully. Instead, they become roles, images, functions, expectations. And once that happens, genuine connection begins disappearing. Her philosophy was never simply about gender. It was about becoming human in a world constantly trying to define you before you define yourself. That struggle remains timeless. Throughout her later years, Simone continued writing novels, essays, and political works. She traveled widely, spoke publicly, supported social movements. But aging changed her deeply. The death of Sartre in 1980 devastated her. For decades, they had challenged, inspired, and emotionally depended upon each other. Without him, part of her inner world collapsed. Her later writings became quieter, more reflective, more fragile. She began confronting mortality directly. And perhaps this is where Simone de Beauvoir becomes most human. Not as an untouchable intellectual, not as a political symbol, but as a person trying to understand how to live honestly while knowing death eventually erases everything. Existential philosophy often sounds cold from a distance, but beneath it lives something profoundly emotional. If life has no guaranteed meaning, then every small act matters more. Love matters. Kindness matters. Courage matters. Because nothing promises they will last forever. Simone spent her entire life resisting predetermined identity. Yet in the end, she also revealed how difficult freedom truly is. Freedom demands responsibility. Responsibility demands self-awareness. And self-awareness often destroys comforting illusions. Many people never want that burden, but some do. Some feel restless inside ordinary existence. Some sense invisible systems shaping their thoughts. Some quietly wonder whether the person they became was truly chosen. Those are the people who continue returning to Simone de Beauvoir, not because she offered easy answers, but because she dared to ask dangerous questions. Who decides your role? What part of you belongs to society? And what part still belongs only to yourself? Perhaps the most frightening realization is this: human beings are unfinished. We are always becoming something. And that means identity is never fully secure. Maybe that uncertainty explains why so many societies fear independent thinkers. Because independent thought destabilizes fixed structures. Once people realize roles are constructed, authority weakens. Simone understood this deeply. That is why her work still feels alive generations later. Not because history ended, but because the struggle she described never ended. Even now, millions of people wake each morning performing expectations they never consciously chose. And somewhere inside them exists a quieter voice asking, who would I become if fear disappeared? Simone de Beauvoir spent her life listening to that question. She died in 1986 inches, Paris. But her ideas survived far beyond her lifetime. Today, her books continue influencing philosophy, politics, psychology, and feminist thought around the world. Some still criticize her. Some misunderstand her. Some worship her too, blindly. But perhaps the most honest way to remember Simone is not as a flawless hero. Instead, remember her as a human being brave enough to challenge inherited reality. A woman who refused to let tradition decide the limits of existence. And in doing so, she helped millions imagine lives larger than the ones society assigned to them. History remembers kings. History remembers wars. But sometimes the quietest revolutions happen inside the human mind. And once those revolutions begin, they are almost impossible to stop. Thank you for spending this time inside another forgotten corner of history. If this story moved you, share your thoughts below. Do you believe human identity is shaped more by society or by personal choice? And next time, we journey into the life of Hannah Arendt, the philosopher who tried to understand how ordinary people become part of terrifying systems. Until then, keep searching the past, because history is never truly gone. It is still quietly living inside us.